My question is to the Attorney-General, Senator Brandis, regarding the extension of preventative detention orders in the foreign fighters legislation to be introduced today. The COAG review of counter-terrorism laws recommended preventative detention orders be repealed. Reports by the former independent National Security Legislation Monitor, Brett Walker SC, also say that these orders are not effective, not appropriate and not necessary. Why, then, is the coalition government proceeding with legislation against this expert advice and extending powers that Mr Walker has said are worse than useless?
Senator McDonald, a point of order.
Mr President, I think there's a standing order prohibiting questions about matters that are already on the notice paper, and I'd ask your ruling on that in relation to this question.
Thank you, Senator McDonald. The matter is actually referring to a notice of motion to introduce a bill. It is very close, but I'll allow the question on this occasion. Senator Wright, Attorney-General.
Well, thank you very much, Mr President. I am aware that Mr Walker is of that view. I'm also aware that there are many, and they include those responsible for policing, who are not of that view. And those people include, most importantly, the Acting Commissioner of the Australian Federal Police, Acting Commissioner Andrew Colvin, with whom I had a discussion about this matter as recently as Sunday afternoon, and with whose officers I have had many discussions. Senator Wright, there will always be legitimate room for a debate about the design features of particular measures. There will always be, in particular, room for a legitimate debate where those measures are unusual measures. Preventative detention orders, like control orders, are unusual features of our law. They were introduced by the Howard government in 2005 specifically to deal with a very unusual set of circumstances, and that is where a terrorist event was considered by the authorities to be imminent, to give them the power to take a person into custody in circumstances in which, for various reasons, an arrest, which is, as you well know, the ordinary mode in which people are taken into custody, might not be available. So rare are those powers that they were never used before last week. Now, as you know, Senator, the Foreign Fighters Bill, which is being introduced into the Senate this afternoon, deals with the issue of preventative detention orders. The bill is going to be referred to the Joint Parliamentary Standing Committee on Intelligence and Security, and they are going to have a good look at them as well. But it is the view of the government that there is a role. There is a role, albeit in unusual and very limited circumstances, for this device. The government is determined that every piece of equipment needs to be in the armoury to keep our country safe.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Wright, a supplementary question.
Yes, thank you, Mr President. A supplementary question. The position of the Independent National Security Legislation Monitor has been vacant since April, despite the fact that we have extensive changes proposed by the government to national security legislation, as you've indicated in your answer, including the imminent foreign fighters legislation. Will the Attorney-General inform the Senate when he will appoint a new Independent National Security Legislation Monitor?
Attorney-General.
Yes, I can, Senator Wright. I can tell you that the government will be appointing a new Independent National Security Legislation Monitor soon.
Senator Wright, a final supplementary question.
Given that first the government decided to abolish the position of the Independent National Security Legislation Monitor, then in July decided to reinstate it, but it remains vacant and unfunded despite extensive changes to national security laws that are coming, the government's commitment to oversight of the national security laws seems unreliable. When will the insular position be funded, and will the funding be the same or more than it was previously?
Minister.
Well, Senator Wright, I think you want to contextualise your history. You know, the idea of having an insulin was an idea that came from the coalition. It came from the coalition in the first year of the Rudd government, and it was initially opposed, though subsequently adopted by the Labor government of the day. It was in fact moved in this chamber over opposition from the Labor government of the day by former Senator Troth and me. Now, it's true, as you also say, that in the budget process the government gave consideration to abolishing that position for economy reasons, but on reflection and conscious that we were going to introduce very significant new laws in relation to national security, we considered that it was a good decision to retain the position, and that is what we have done. So a position first recommended by the Coalition has been kept as a result of a decision by the Coalition.